Alright, welcome to today's video everyone. Today we're going to be going over probably one of the most popular subreddits out there, r/AmITheButthole. It's just that popular, I don't think we need to even preface it, so let's get right into it. Am I the butthole for eating ice cream every night just like I always do and not stopping because my sister-in-law doesn't want my niece to see it? Most nights after dinner I eat a small ice cream cone. It's literally the little Joy mini cups with a teeny scoop of ice cream. Maybe a big scoop if I'm having a rough day, but that's kinda rare. I don't drink alcohol or smoke weed or do anything fun, so this is my one fun thing I do for myself. My brother and his wife and daughter are staying with me for a few weeks. They'll be gone by June 15th. I'm happy to have them here. Usually we'll eat dinner together and go our separate ways for the evening. They watch a lot of TV, so they're usually all in the living room watching. I've been eating my little cone, but my sister-in-law approached me and asked me if I could stop. She said that my niece is starting to ask why she doesn't get to have ice cream, and that obviously she was lied to by my sister-in-law when she told her ice cream is a sometimes food, haha. I said that I wasn't going to stop, but I could wait until she was in bed. I figured that that was a good compromise, and I do get that she's trying to raise her little girl to have a healthy relationship with food. But waiting until she was in bed didn't work because she came into the kitchen multiple times to ask me for some. My sister-in-law was definitely a little incredulous over it and kept asking, "Really? Do you seriously need to eat ice cream every single day?" or stuff like it. I said no, but she also doesn't need to drink a glass of wine every day either. She didn't like this and sighed a bunch and has been visibly annoyed with me since then. My brother asked me if I could stop just to avoid the drama, but I said I deserve my little treats. Am I the butthole? I think everyone's allowed to have their fun little things that they do every day. Like your sister-in-law has her glass of wine and you have a little ice cream. And I don't think that's really a problem either way. There is definitely the added context of they're trying to raise a healthy little girl, but they're also staying in your house. If they really wanted to be away out of that environment, they could stay in a hotel. And obviously you said that you enjoy having them there, and that's completely fine. But just if this is such a big problem to them, then maybe they should have their own place. And then I think the compromise of waiting until she goes to bed is perfect. I mean, so you can't really avoid the fact that kids are gonna want ice cream, so they're gonna ask. Or maybe she'll get out of bed and you never know. But I think that's the best thing that you can do in that scenario. Neither one of you is really the butthole. I think like the sister-in-law came in with the first idea of just, hey, can you not have it so that the kid doesn't see it? But then you countered really well with, I'll just have it after she goes to bed. I think that's just a regular story, and that's kind of just the best you can work out. Am I the butthole for not putting away my copy of The Handmaid's Tale? My 20, uncle, and cousin 14 are currently staying with us since their house is going through some repairs. Cousin sleeps in my room. Mum told me to put certain books away since they are inappropriate, so I put them all in a small locked drawer. I didn't put The Handmaid's Tale and some of my other dystopian novels there though. Barely any space left, so I had to pick which ones to lock up. The way I figured it, she probably wouldn't be interested in. And the book in question, full of my distracting, barely legible to anyone else annotations. I studied it for A-level English literature when I was 16/17, and my handwriting was atrocious back then. But she did end up getting interested in it. I came home one day to find out that she had been reading it, and my uncle had found out and was telling her she is too young. Then he turned to me and berated me, saying I was careless to leave something she is too young for out on the shelf. Just as a thing, I kind of disagree with kids being too young for pretty much any book that isn't literally just naughty stuff. A dystopian tale, I'm not actually 100% sure on what The Handmaid's Tale is. I have to admit, I haven't read it. But obviously it is something dystopian, and I think it's about like the female oppression. If a kid is interested in reading a book like that, I don't think they're too young for it, whatever age that may be. I think they're really good ideas to have kids get interested in and read, even if like they don't fully understand it. Like there's a bunch of books I read when I was like 10, 12 that I've actually started reading nowadays that I didn't fully understand until now. And that's fine. I still liked them back then, even though I didn't fully get them. And then, especially for something like this, it's something that could, provide thought-provoking conversations if you wanted to discuss them with your kids. I don't really think that there's a too young for about 90% of books, you know? Not even really a too old in that fact. Obviously, to sum that up, I don't think they're the butthole. Am I the butthole for keeping the inheritance from birth mother instead of splitting with adoptive siblings? I just found out that my birth mother, who I have never met, left me her whole estate, $180,000. I was adopted at birth by a wonderful family with 2 other adopted kids. My siblings are now saying that it isn't fair. I got everything when they also deserve it, being adopted as well. They want to split it 3 ways. My parents are staying neutral, which I can tell is uncomfortable. The thing is, this was my birth mother. She chose to find me and leave me this money. My siblings have their own birth families they could easily have a connection to someday. For me, this feels like my one connection to where I came from. Now family dinners are awkward because my siblings barely talk to me. Am I being selfish for keeping money that was legally left to me? I think the context is that all the siblings are adopted. Like, this is what do they call it? Like a blended family where, you know, like they've got adopted kids, like all adopted from different families. And I don't think this is an unpopular opinion that it's your parents. They left it to you. It's your money. If you want to give them some money, that's your choice. But the whole $180,000 is yours. You know, they'll have their own parents, and eventually, you know, like they could reach out to them and eventually they could get an inheritance from them. It's strange that they're being entitled over the fact that someone who isn't their mother kicked the bucket and now they're not getting money. It's money does lots of weird things to a lot of people, but this is your money. And even if I were to give some money to people in this situation, I wouldn't be thirding it with them. They have no connection to this person, not even biological. Am I the butthole for celebrating my birthday without my friends after they rescheduled around babysitters again? I've 26F been part of a friend group since college. We're close and consistently hang out and have friends game nights. The kicker? I'm the only person in the group without kids. Everyone else is busy raising toddlers and infants. While it seems fair that they've been putting on more and more adults-only events, fancy dinners, wine tastings, and events. Great, right? No. The adults-only evenings are literally during times that I'm working my restaurant shifts, evenings/weekends, because those are the time their babysitters are available. I've expressed multiple times that it would be great to have daytime events or meet during the week to do things, since my schedule is very flexible during the day. They always say, "Oh, we'll try for that next time," but it never happens. Last month was the last straw. My birthday fell on a Sunday, and I asked them if we could do a celebration during the day since I was working that night, and they agreed. Then, the day before my celebration, the group chat exploded that they were actually now changing it to evening because Sarah's babysitter cancelled but can do 7 PM instead. I was so done at that point. I made my own plans for my birthday with my co-workers who were able to show up, and post pictures on social media having the best time at brunch and escaping an escape room. Now my original friend group is hurt that I didn't even tell them we changed the plans. They are now calling me petty and that I should understand that finding childcare is hard, but I'm over being the only one who is expected to accommodate everyone else 100% of the time. But I think my job counts as an adult responsibility too, and I shouldn't have to miss my own birthday for their babysitter problems. Honestly, sadly, it seems like a group of friends that are moving on without you, and honestly, they don't seem to be doing the most to try to bring you with them. Like, they don't seem to be, from the outside, they don't seem to be putting any real effort into making things available for you or making sure that you can show up. And so, in a way, they're kind of just isolating you from the group. I think the line here is that they try to change your plans for your birthday, which is extremely entitled. Like, that's not just like, oh damn, my plans fell through. That's changing your schedule when you have work to have your party then. Are they supposed to have your birthday party without you? It's extremely entitled, and honestly, it seems like they're all moving that way, and it might just be that this friends group has run its course for you, and you'll find people who are in a similar stage of life to you, or just those who make time for you because they want to hang out with you. These people might be good friends, but they they don't seem like they're caring enough about you and your time to put any effort in for you. Or at least that's how it looks. Am I the butthole for telling my wife's stepdad our newborn son isn't calling him father? My 27M wife's 27F father passed away when she was 9, and her mother remarried to her stepdad when she was 15. My wife and her stepdad have always butted heads because he oversteps and has tried to force himself as a father figure in her life. When my wife's mum married him, they both made it very clear that he was never going to be her dad and basically had no control over her, and he has reluctantly accepted that over the years. Fast forward to today, my wife gave birth to our son a week ago. He is the first grandbaby on both sides, so all the grandparents are trying to figure out what they want to be called. My wife's stepdad's name is David, and wants our son to call him Avi, which means father in Hebrew. My wife and I are uncomfortable with our son calling him this, so we asked him if there was another name he could go by, and he made a fuss that he intentionally didn't want to be called Grandpa because my wife has made a point in the past that his actual grandpa is no longer with us, but now he's complaining that we aren't going to be happy with any name he wants to go by. I think it is really weird. It kind of seems like he's trying to get his kicks of being called dad or father from a kid by a kid that's not his kid. That was a lot of kids there, but why didn't he try and find grandfather in Hebrew if he was going to go Hebrew? It seems like he's just trying to work around to try and find a way to have a kid call him dad. Being 9 and like having a new stepdad, I think that is one of the things where it can be overstepped. But you know, if the like relationship had really blossomed between the stepdad and daughter, maybe she would have called him dad at some point. Maybe. It seems like they never got to that, and that she never really felt comfortable with him parenting her. So I think it's kind of weird, and I don't think they're the butthole for not wanting to have his step grandson call him dad. Am I the butthole for telling my parents that they neglected me because of my brother's illness? So I'm a 16-year-old girl, and I have an older brother who is 20, and he moved out about 2 months ago. My brother has misophonia. I don't know everything about the illness, and I don't want to say anything wrong, but it's basically being triggered by certain sounds. He was diagnosed at 7 when I was 4, and he has a very strong version of the illness, I think. Me and my brother used to get along okay, but it got worse after that. Funnily enough, all of his triggers were connected to me. My laughing, my walking, my eating, everything seemed to trigger him. I remember my father yelling at me when I was like 6 because I laughed while my older brother was also in the car. I wasn't allowed to eat dinner with them. My parents would eat with him, and when he was finished, he could leave and then I could get my food. I didn't even really understand what was going on because I was a little kid. I was often alone because I couldn't go anywhere with them and would trigger him, and when we did something together, it didn't feel the same because even alone, I was always scared to do something wrong and get yelled at. Even in school, I would barely talk or laugh. I was never very close with my family and spent most of my time alone in my room or with friends outside. Since my brother moved out, my parents are trying to get me to connect with them more. This morning, my mum asked me if I wanted to go see a movie with her, and I was already in a bad mood because I was stressed due to exams. So I sort of just snapped and told her I didn't want to, and to stop trying to fix things with me because it was ruined, and that she couldn't fix the neglect they put me through simply by watching a movie with me. She then yelled back at me and told me to stop being jealous of my brother, and that they were doing the best they could, and that they didn't want to neglect me, just tried to take care of my brother. I just left after that, and both my parents have been ignoring me all day, and now I feel kind of bad. I still really love them. I'm not a doctor, mental health person, anything like that. I'm not going to say that your brother doesn't have this, but I guess the thing is, was his misophonia triggered by all kids laughing or just you? Because if everything was specifically you and not about like every kid laughing or things like that, then it seems targeted. It doesn't seem like an illness. It totally could be. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. it just seems extremely coincidental that it happens to be his sister that is all of his triggers. I wouldn't be surprised if he was putting it on. And I also think that given the example of like basically making you a pet where the family eats first and then you eat after is a horrific way to deal with that. If it's literally sounds, why couldn't the brother wear some headphones or noise cancelling headphones or something? Why do you have to be neglected and then brought to the table? They have neglected you, and they clearly don't want to admit it, or no, they clearly don't want to admit it, but they weren't taking care of you like they should have. If you wanted to, you're still 16. There's time to repair a relationship there, but it's possible that you'll end up in 2 years they don't know what they do. They still don't treat you right, and that may just be a broken relationship. You never know. Am I the butthole for not claiming my friend's mistake on my insurance? Hi, I 26F and my friends from college 26F both moved into the same apartment building. She lives on the floor above mine. One weekend, she put me along with a bunch of our mutual friends in a group chat because she wanted to have a barbecue on our roof. She has hosted many before, but this would be the first one I ever attended because I don't eat red meat. I did not eat anything that was cooked on the grill and only brought chips and a bottle and a paper plates. When the day was over, the group of us went downstairs to watch a reality show. My friend, who lives in the building, and the girl who owned the grill discussed that they would leave the grill to cool off. Once the reality show was over, I went back to my apartment and went to sleep. The next day, everyone in my building receives an email saying that there was a fire on the roof last night because someone dumped coals in the trash can on the roof and they're relit due to the wind. I took a screenshot of the email and sent it to my friend, who then put it in the group chat of everyone. Her and our other friend who owned the grill told us that they decided to take the grill home the same day because they didn't want to have to come back and get it the next day. So the girl in my building gave the grill owner her keys to go get the grill off the roof, and the grill owner decided that it would be the best thing to just toss the coals in the trash can on the roof. Our building requires multiple key taps to get on and off the roof, and they also have cameras, so they immediately told my friend in my building she was responsible for it since her guest using her keys. A week later, my friend came to me and asked me to put it on my insurance since she nor the grill owner had renter's insurance. I spoke with a few lawyers and my old insurance agent, and they all said that this would be fraud. So I told my friend I do not feel comfortable doing so. Another week goes by and she asked me again because she believed that she would have to go bankrupt over the situation. She did not. I again said no because I did not feel comfortable and reiterated that I was told that this would be fraud. From then, she started to run a smear campaign, saying that I was the bad friend and all of our friend group should stop talking to me because they said that I should have at least tried to put it on my insurance. They now all want me to apologize to all of them and work for their friendship again, since they believed I was wrong, but I feel like I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not gonna lie, your friend group sounds really dumb. Like really dumb. I'm not the brightest person, and I don't start the most fires, but I don't think that I would have the bright idea of just chucking coal into like an open trash can. That seems dumb. Also, like, I don't know if you explained or even just like put a message in the friend group, hey, doing this would literally be fraud, which is a crime. And if they still think that you're in the wrong, they're dumb. They're dumb because they think you should commit a crime. They're also dumb for not having renter's insurance, clearly, if they're this dumb. And I think just the notion of having to work back for a friendship is pretty dumb. Especially if like this whole friend group who didn't have anything happen to them is saying this. Just overall, this friend group is dumb. Just forget about them. But I don't think you're the butthole. Am I the butthole for cancelling a trip because my friend can't afford it? I, 20F, have a close friend, 21F, who has been asking me for months to go to LA for a fun summer trip. Now, we live around 8 hours away, so I kinda just assumed we would fly, and the other day when she brought it up, I told her we should probably book our flight soon. To that, she looked really confused and told me how she couldn't afford plane tickets and she wanted to drive. I was sort of confused, because if she can't afford a $150 plane ticket, how is she planning to pay for the activities and places she wants to go to? Nobu, jet skiing, shopping, clubs, etc., which all add up quick. She also doesn't have her license, which means I would have to do all of the driving, which would be hard as I have back issues and driving for so long would be painful. She kind of just laughed and said since I have money, she assumed I would pay for a majority of her expenses. I was shocked because why would she assume I would pay for her expenses without even asking? I have no problem covering something like drinks or ice cream, but to assume I would pay for everything by myself except for the hotel? We had previously agreed to split the hotel 50-50. I told her that this trip was her idea, and she shouldn't have asked me to go if she was expecting for me to pay for everything. She's upset and complaining about how it's unfair since I can afford to pay for her. Update: I told her for her to invite me on a trip, then assume I'd cover her expenses like this was ridiculous. As for now, I'm gonna just cut back and let our friendship fizzle off. We've been friends for years, but this was childish and out of line. I assume that someone already got to them. So yeah, that probably is the best thing, just to cut it off and let it fizzle out, because they're clearly getting entitled and expecting you to do everything. It's just not a sustainable friendship, and not one really built on mutual respect anymore. Seems like we have a lot of not buttholes today. Not the worst thing, but it's always fun to have some buttholes. Am I the butthole for calling out my kid's teacher for talking down to me? I was at my daughter's teacher conference. I was still wearing my work clothes. I'm an electrician and uniform is somewhat dirty. I start talking to me in a baby voice using very simple words and speaking slowly. I assume I is as like a they or teacher or something. Your daughter needs help with her math homework. Do you know what fractions are? I have accrued 60 college credits and I read all the time, but I guess since I fit the blue color mold, I must be stupid. I kept my cool and asked her if she always assumed the level of intelligence of her parents based on what clothes they wear. She started getting defensive, like she was only trying to be helpful and didn't mean anything by it. I told her that in the future, I would rather she talk to me like a normal person. Now my wife thinks I made the teacher look bad for no reason, and I should have let it go because she meant well. I feel like that was pretty disrespectful though. Am I the butthole? I think your wife's just trying to keep the peace. You know, you're kind of stuck with a teacher for a year. She's just trying to make it all go smoothly. So I'm not saying that she's wrong for trying to just smooth it over. But I do think this teacher is the butthole in this situation. She's to talk down to anyone like that is crazy. I mean, 90% of people went to primary school, and so 90% of people understand what a fraction is, or they've heard of fractions. Especially like this baby voice, which, if they're including, I'm expecting did happen, and so that it is insane. Also, they clearly don't know much about electricians, because becoming an electrician takes a lot of work. It takes at least 3 to 4 years of higher education. Sure, it's not going to university and studying law, but it is higher education. There's also a fair amount of maths involved in becoming an electrician, so kind of crazy that they think that this person wouldn't understand what fractions are. This person clearly doesn't understand what an electrician is. Am I the butthole for leaving my sister-in-law's house after she invited me over to not be alone, but just wanted free childcare? I, 25F, had to put my cat down unexpectedly, and it has completely shattered me. He wasn't just a pet. He was my best friend, my emotional support, my companion through everything. I've had him since I was a teenager, and I loved him more than I can explain. Making the decision to let him go was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I held him in my arms at the vet while he passed, and I genuinely don't know how I made it home after. I cried all night, I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. I took the next day off work because I couldn't even function. I was in absolute pieces. That day, my sister-in-law called and she said she didn't want me to be alone and invited me to come over. I was hesitant but also grateful that someone seemed to care. I thought I'd be able to just sit quietly, cry a little, maybe talk about him if I needed to. Basically just exist around someone so I wasn't drowning by myself. But the moment I got there, it was clear that not being alone actually meant helping her with her kids. We immediately left to go pick them up from school. Her son didn't want to get off the jungle gym, and when I just stood there, sister-in-law got annoyed that I wasn't physically removing him, even though I could barely stand upright without crying. Back at her place, she told her son I would help him with homework while she made dinner. I tried to gently bring up my cat once or twice. I honestly just needed to talk about him, and each time she shut me off with, "You're just having a moment," or said we didn't need to dwell. I felt completely dismissed. Then her son needed help in the bathroom, and she asked me to do it. I don't know if she realized, but I'd been crying on and off the entire time I was there. I hadn't been able to think straight since yesterday. I wasn't even sure why I agreed to come. And now I was being asked to play babysitter while grieving the most traumatic loss I've ever experienced. At that point, I just stood up and left. I didn't say much. I didn't trust myself to not sob or scream. I just got in my car and went home. Later, she texted me saying I upset her kids by storming out, and that she was trying to help me take my mind off things, but I don't think she ever actually saw how much pain I was in. No, you're not the butthole, if you even really need me to explain that for you. They clearly didn't want to take your mind off it. Taking your mind off of it is not, "Hey, here's a bunch of responsibility and chores for you to do." It's something like, "Hey, let's go get an ice cream," or "Let's go to the amusement park where you can barely damn think while you're going around on the roller coasters," or something like that. It's not just taking care of someone else's child. Whether or not she realized it was doing something completely entitled and trying to get you to look after her kid while you literally just were grieving your emotional support demon. It's really not cool, and she didn't even accept your grievance or allow you to have your space. Yeah, it's really not okay. Am I the butthole for telling my friend I won't drive her to work anymore after she kept making us late? I, 25F, have been giving my friend Lena, 27F, a ride to work for the past 3 months. We live a few blocks apart, work at the same place, different departments, and start at the same time, so it made sense at first. At the beginning, everything was fine, but over the past month, she started running late, like really late. I text her when I leave my house, and sometimes I end up sitting outside for 10 to 15 minutes waiting. A few times she's even asked me to swing by a coffee shop or drop her off at a different entrance, which adds time. We've both got written up for being late twice now. I finally told her this week that I can't keep driving her if she's not ready on time. I said I like her and I don't want to fall out over something small, but I need to look out for myself and my job. She got really quiet and said she didn't think it was a big deal and that I was being kind of cold over something that was supposed to be a favor. Now she's barely talking to me at work, and a mutual friend told me she feels ditched. I didn't mean to hurt her, but I felt like I was doing her a favor and she was treating it like a service. I'm not her Uber driver. I think it's common courtesy if someone's giving you a lift to be ready when they arrive, or like just to have to throw your jacket or shoes on when they arrive. 10 to 15 minutes is extreme. Obviously we don't have the context of if on these days she left her house earlier. We also don't know how long it takes to get from her house to the person, so like it could be 2 minutes and this person's like, "Oh, you're leaving now? Crazy, didn't realize you were leaving now." So, but like if she's leaving at the same time every day, coming to get her, and sometimes she has to wait 10 to 15 minutes, then this person's not being considerate of her time and the fact that she is going to get written up for them both being late. This is something that I've somewhat experienced like with my sister, where we both had like the same job, even sometimes working at the same time, and she has quite the habit of being late, and I am someone who I feel terrible if I'm late. I want to be like 5 minutes early, even so I can just like sit in the car for like 3 minutes that I woke up there just on time. Like I don't always get to work early, but I make sure that I'm not late. And we drive together because it was economical and because it was easy to get to work. Sometimes even on the same morning, I would be like, "Hey, look, if you're not ready to leave at this time, I'm going. and you're going to have to drive yourself or get yourself there another way because I'm not being late for you. Now, given that we're siblings, it was probably a little bit easier for us to like have that and still hold a relationship. But I'm not above being like, hey, if you're not going to be considerate of my time and help me get to work on time, I'm not driving you. You're not coming with me. So I don't think you're the butthole. Maybe I'm also the butthole, but I don't think you are. Am I the butthole for walking my friend's under-exercised dog more than they usually do, which led to vet costs and now drama? So this one's been sitting heavy on me, and I'd love to get an outside perspective. My friends, let's call them J and P, Jim and Pam, adopted a 2-year-old rescue dog, and I'll call him B. About 3 months ago, before that, B had lived in a basement with little to no stimulation. He's a super sweet dog, but noticeably under-exercised. They walk him about 1 to 2 kilometers per day, and he's alone for 6 to 8 hours daily. He often seems restless, whiny, overexcited around other dogs. Classic signs of understimulation in my opinion. I took care of B for a weekend while they were away. During that time, I gave him more attention and longer walks. One day, we covered about 10 kilometers total, spread out throughout the day. He was noticeably calmer, more relaxed, and just generally seemed happier. I honestly felt like he needed that. When I returned him, he was fine. The next day, they messaged me saying he had hip pain, and that they had to call a vet. I felt awful, but also a bit confused, because he hadn't shown any signs of discomfort while with me, and I did pace things gently. The vet said there was nothing structurally wrong, maybe a muscle strain or muscle soreness, and gave them painkillers. We later had a conversation where I calmly expressed that I'd take a step back from walking or looking after B to avoid overstepping again, and to respect their way of handling things, even though I strongly feel like that dog needs more stimulation. The talk started off calm, but escalated when Jim suddenly accused me of not wanting to pay the vet bill. That threw me off because, at that point, the bill hadn't even come up in our conversation. It genuinely hadn't been discussed yet, not because I was avoiding it, but because we hadn't gotten there yet. I would have gladly offered to help if it had been addressed normally. After that, I sent a message offering to pay part of the bill, asking for a receipt, and reiterating that the friendship matters to me. P later replied saying emotions were high, Jim's under a lot of stress, and that Jim needs more time. I get that life is hard, and I don't want to be insensitive, but I feel a bit hurt and misunderstood. I never meant to overstep. I really cared about B and just wanted to give him what I thought he was missing. So am I the butthole for walking their dog significantly more than they do and trying to do the right thing? And now stepping back after being accused of not wanting to pay, even though we hadn't gotten to that part of the conversation yet? I am not a dog owner. Never really have been. So I don't know the nuances of owning a dog. I do know, I guess, a little bit about my body after all the injuries I've put myself through and all the different exercising, working out, whatever, to go from what I have to assume this dog is, it's a 2-year-old rescue dog. I don't know how long they've had this dog for, but this dog is accustomed to 1 to 2 kilometers per day. Anyone who's either not done a lot of cardio, workout, whatever, and has then decided to do some, will know that they're in a lot of pain afterwards. I noticed it when I tried starting the gym after freaking sitting on the couch for 8 months after I moved countries. I was extremely sore. I'm not saying they're wrong that this dog is understimulated. 5 to 10 times in their regular exercise in, like, what did they have it for a weekend? So 2, maybe it was a long weekend, 3 days of 10 kilometers, when that's more than they walk just one day in a week, is pretty extreme. So I'm not saying that it's bad overall to get this dog up to 10 kilometers, or I'm not even saying that they aren't understimulating him, but just that extreme jump on that weekend it's gonna hurt the dog because their muscles aren't used to it. that doesn't mean they pulled a muscle or broken their hip or anything like that. I'm not even sure what the damn vet bill's for if they just gave him some like painkillers. I assume that's just how vets are and how having a dog is, that it's expensive, but like realistically it probably shouldn't be. Yeah, it's just that you didn't go for like 3 or 4Ks, you know, which is more, but hopefully within like that that kind of window where they can get away with it, they feel more exercised, but they're not like straining their body. So I think that's that little nuance where you are the butthole. I took a look a bit at the comments, and there's people like saying that you don't know their dog better than the people who own him. Could be true, not sure. But maybe this person has had their own dog, so maybe they know a little bit about taking care of a dog. But I think it's that area where you're the butthole. I don't think wanting to step back because you realize you've overstepped makes you a butthole. I don't think the fact that you took care of him is the butthole. I think it's just you 10x'd what the dog normally does, and you put it under strain, and you know that's cost them money. I think it's just that you were trying to do something good, you went too far. So maybe they don't know too much about dogs, but yeah, they went too far trying to do a good thing, and that's where they're the butthole. I don't think it's too much more serious than that. But you know, say like they were doing like freaking 20Ks, that's a lot. But I do think the comments, it's an Australian Shepherd. An Australian Shepherd probably would love to do 20Ks every weekend, but they'd need to be built up for it, just like anyone. It was great to get a butthole story in at the end there, but I think that's everything for today. So like, subscribe, do all that cool stuff, and we'll see you in another one.